I'm pleased to rise today and present my response to the Premier's State of the State address. It has been said that the Premier's State of the State felt more like a pre-election speech than a normal State of the State speech, and I note the Premier's recent indications that he won't rule out going to an early election. And now, with developments over the weekend, with the government now in minority, an early election might be required. But I'd like to put on the record today, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we are ready, with a dedicated, united and committed team, ready and capable of governing, a dynamic team working together to create a fairer and better Tasmania. A Labor government will be a compassionate government in both words and actions, unlike this government. Through our policies, we will make a positive difference to the lives of all Tasmanians. And, Madam Speaker, as we approach the next state election, Tasmanians need to ask themselves a simple question. Is life better under the Gutwein Liberal minority government? Does this minority government deserve another 4 years? And can Tasmanians endure another 12 years of this Liberal minority government? During my contribution today, I believe that the answer to this question will be made abundantly clear. I plan to share some stories from Tasmanians, members of my electorate, throughout my contribution today. Because, Madam Deputy Speaker, this is what matters, and the lived experience of Tasmanians should inform decision-making in this place and the policies of current and future governments. I am proud to be part of a team who listens to communities, consults widely and develops its policies from the interactions we have with Tasmanians and stakeholders as we endeavour to improve the lives of all Tasmanians. Madam Deputy Speaker, the start of a new year always brings both reflection and anticipation, and often hope for a better year ahead. But after the trials and pain of 2020, there is a special significance to the start of this new year, and indeed our parliamentary year. And I know across the world, across our state and this chamber, there is a collective hope for better times in 2021. While the uncertainty isn't over, there is cause for optimism, particularly here in Tasmania, where we've overcome the worst of the public health emergency by pulling together as a community. For my close-knit community in the northwest, west coast and on King Island, the outbreak, tragic loss of lives and extended lockdown period brought enormous hardship, but also serves as a shining example of what can be achieved by us working together. Madam Deputy Speaker, as we embark on this new year and our ongoing recovery, we need to keep that in our minds and incorporate what we've learnt in 2020. One of the first lessons was the importance of a strong health system. The pressures on Northwest health facilities and staff, culminating in the closure of the Mersey Hospital Emergency Department outside business hours, highlighted wider pre-existing issues with the system, including culture, understaffing and a heavy reliance on locums. The people of the Northwest deserve better, and we must ensure our health system is properly funded and our healthcare workforce supported. And I would like to put on the record this morning my gratitude and thanks to all of our frontline workers who assisted our state and our local communities in our response to COVID-19. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's not just in our hospitals. More investment in vital community services, including mental health, across our region and the state is needed now more than ever to support our community through the hardship that they have endured. We also need more action to create local jobs across our regions. Labor's priorities are jobs, housing and health. And when it comes to jobs, our fully costed plan Working for Tasmania includes initiatives designed to stimulate the economy, foster business growth and get Tasmanians into secure jobs. Labor will rebuild TAFE and enhance regional delivery, as well as making TAFE free in areas of greatest skills demand. Labor will also invest in supporting our small businesses, incentivise innovation to diversify our economy and invest in Burnie and Devonport ports to stimulate industry growth and job creation. And we will ensure money from government contracts stays in Tasmania by implementing a genuine buy local policy. COVID-19 has taught us that we can get through a crisis by working together, and I want to thank our community for working together through a very tough year. I also want to thank my colleagues in this place for working together during what was an incredibly difficult time for our state. Madam Deputy Speaker, As Tasmanians sit in traffic, try to put a roof over their head, struggle to make ends meet each week, wait for hours for an ambulance, struggle to get an appointment with their local GP, afford a TAFE course or get a job, I wonder what they truly think about this government and its impact on their quality of life. Madam Speaker, we think the quality of life of all Tasmanians is slowly eroding under this government. All of those issues affecting Tasmanians prior to COVID still exist post-COVID, with many having been amplified by COVID. This government has failed to plan for growth across Tasmania. It has no comprehensive plan for Tasmania. It has taken 7 years to address the skills shortages across Tasmania, 7 years to fix planning, 7 years to invest in TAFE, 7 years to fix Tasmania's housing crisis, 7 years to fix workforce shortages, 7 years to fix traffic congestion across our major centres, and 7 years to ensure rural and regional Tasmanians have access to the same services and are afforded the same opportunities as their city counterparts. Right now, though, despite the tagline on our number plate, not all Tasmanians are getting the opportunity to explore the possibilities. There is a clear dichotomy in Tasmania between the haves and have-nots. We are seeing the result of the short-term approach taken by this government over 7 years, impacting on the quality of life and opportunities that we as proud Tasmanians have enjoyed for generations. Madam Deputy Speaker, Tasmania is the state of beautiful landscapes, talented people and tremendous opportunities and possibilities. We must think big, think differently and have the courage to face up to our challenges and plan together as a community for our future. This government has no long-term plan for Tasmania, no shared objectives or goals, or no insight into what is important to Tasmanians. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of PESRAC for their commitment to the future of Tasmania and involvement in the preparation of their report and Tasmania's future direction, and their work on our social and economic recovery. It is only now that PESRAC has handed down its final report that we see the government promoting TAFE being made available in the regions. For 7 years, the Treasurer and Minister have had to address this, to invest in TAFE and improve regional delivery. 7 years of inaction, and this is but one example of this government's neglect. The Labor Party is the party for the workers and all Tasmanians. We won't be drawn into wedge politics. We won't be doing any deals with the Greens. We are clear on our priorities. We want to help Tasmanians, young and old, to get a job, have access to quality skills and training, and make sure they can get in to see their GP, get an ambulance when they need to, and have a roof over their head for themselves and their families. And we recognise that 1 in 4 Tasmanians lives in poverty and that this is simply unacceptable, and addressing this must be a key priority for government. We have questions about how the government will fund the initiatives set out in the Premier's State of the State and the recommendations set out in PESRAC. Are they fully costed for and budgeted for? And if they are not, why not? Madam Deputy Speaker, our fully costed jobs plan, our budget reply, is a document that I am proud of and that has been developed through consultation with communities and industries through extensive consultation. It enables the creation of 35,000 jobs right across Tasmania, from the regions to the cities. It's about investing in Tasmanians. The government says it doesn't rate our jobs plan. The Premier's State of the State speech confirmed the government has in fact included a number of initiatives from our jobs plan in its initiatives outlined last week. We are pleased the government sees merit in these initiatives, including rolling out our regional jobs hubs, which is a great initiative. I'll now take some time to examine yearly progress made across each of my shadow portfolios. Labor is a strong supporter of small business, and we want to do more to support small business, particularly across regional Tasmania. I want to put on the record my sincere thanks to our small business owners and operators across the state. It's been a heartbreaking year for them, and they have sacrificed a great deal for the greater health and wellbeing of our communities. There have been numerous support packages and grants made available by the government to support small business across the state, some less controversial than others, and while I acknowledge there needed to be haste to provide this financial support, the administration of some of this small business grants program has been questioned, and we have received feedback from many businesses who felt this process was not equitable and could have been administered better. And we will need to continue to support our small businesses as JobKeeper ends, and I call on the government to do this. Regional development. This government is still failing to strategically invest in regional Tasmania. It talks about it, but it doesn't do it. From poor access to skills and training, poor community transport services, poor access to general practice. It's only since PESRAC's report that community transport services and access to regional skills and training have become a priority for this government. The government have had 7 years to make this a priority, and we believe local government is an important strategic partner in regional development, and we will work in partnership to address barriers to growth across regional Tasmania. Transport. We have been accused on this side by the others on the other side that about creating nothing but glossy brochures. But I wanted to bring to the attention of the House this glossy brochure, which is all about Hobart's transport vision, which outlines from 2 ministers ago. Minister Rena Hidding is responsible for this document, but in here you'll see lots of glossy pictures of Derwent ferries, underground bus malls, rail services from the northern suburbs. It's all there, but not much of it's been achieved. We still have issues with congestion. As I said, there's been no progress made on the Derwent ferries. We don't have an underground bus mall. There's been no progress made on northern suburbs rail, and yet we hear that there's going to be another consultant's report on this project. We have very poor public transport amenities around the state, very poor bus shelter infrastructure, bus stops on the sides of hills with no shelter. And I recently wrote to the Minister for Infrastructure about putting a bus stop at Waratah on Tasmania's west coast because the weather is dreadful and there's no school in the town and the kids need to stand out in the rain in all elements to catch the bus to school. And I was told that would be a council responsibility. Why isn't the government working in partnership with local government to provide these facilities? The ride and go infrastructure has been slow to mobilise, and there's been ludicrous changes to bus services across the northwest coast, which I will talk more about further on in my contribution. Local government, Madam Deputy Speaker, the review of the Act seems to have stalled, and it should have examined more strategically the roles and responsibilities of local government and the state government and set a vision for local government in partnership with the sector for the future. The code of conduct needs to be reviewed, and I want to acknowledge and thank the women from the local government sector that have stood up for better support for women in the sector. And I asked the government, what are they going to do to support women in elected member positions across the local government sector? And I want to thank the local government sector for stepping up during the pandemic, for taking on a number of initiatives to provide rate relief and other forms of support to their local communities. They did a tremendous job, and I want to extend my thanks to them. Planning, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's not just about a regulatory focus, it's also about planning for growth across the state, something that this government has failed miserably on. We still don't have any planning policies. We have out-of-date regional land use strategies which are holding back urban growth and development. We're still awaiting the further progress of the LPSs. We're awaiting the findings of the review of the Tasmanian Planning Commission. Planning has been underfunded by this government, and it's constantly raised with us through our industry advisory councils that there are difficulties with the current planning process, and there is a need for better strategic planning across the state. And indeed, local government have raised now on many occasions the need for investment in training and more planners across the state. We have a significant shortages of planners across Tasmania. And it feels like we're getting piecemeal band-aid approaches to fixing messy bits as we transition to the new planning scheme, whenever that might be. My last shadow portfolio area that I want to speak about, Madam Deputy Speaker, is advanced manufacturing. And it's especially, I have a special affinity for advanced manufacturing, I guess, having worked very closely with advanced manufacturers across my electorate for some time in previous roles also, and I think we've seen lots of change over the last few years, which has brought loads of opportunities to the sector and individual businesses. And I visited a couple of businesses in my electorate recently who have benefited from defence bids, and this highlights again the opportunities which are ahead, I believe, for our advanced manufacturers. I want to commend JBEN on their memorandum of agreement with In Situ Pacific, a subsidiary of Boeing, and congratulate them on their bid for drone defence work. And Penguin Composites are also actively involved in defence work, and I encourage the state government to provide advocacy to their federal counterparts to ensure Tasmanian firms continue to get their fair share of defence work. Madam Deputy Speaker, we all love living in Tasmania, and I am proud to call the northwest coast of Tasmania my home. It is a place I have grown up in, a place that has provided me with many opportunities and a unique quality of life. In looking back at the last 12 months in the electorate, it's been a funny year, with events really only beginning to be held across the electorate in the latter part of the year. Despite there not being as many events or face-to-face meetings to attend, this time was still incredibly busy as we assisted people and organisations as public health directives and restrictions changed rapidly during this time in response to COVID. I thank the people of Braddon for what it is an incredible privilege to be your local member, and I'm looking forward to the year ahead. I'd like to thank Kay and Jess for their work in my electorate office, and Teresa, Dawn, Peter and Joan for their stellar job volunteering over the last 12 months. I wanted to take some time to reflect on the government's election commitments across my electorate in my contribution today, and some key projects that come to mind are palliative care beds at the Mersey Community Hospital, which still have not been delivered and are a very important investment for our region. The Cradle Mountain Project Gateway Precinct and Expression of Interest process, there's been no update on this for a significant period of time, and we know, Madam Deputy Speaker, that this private investment is critical to the success of this project and the Cradle Mountain Master Plan and the economic benefit that will be brought to Tasmania through this investment. The Burnie Youth Foyer, the Northwest Men's Homeless Accommodation, the next iconic walk on the West Coast. What has the progress been to date? The Burnie Ambulance Station, we've gone from a greenfield site to trying to fit the new station on the already heavily compromised Northwest Regional Hospital site, and we still don't have a time frame for completion. And I wanted to make mention again of Lois, who shared her story with me recently, and whom I shared her story on her behalf with the Parliament, who waited 3.5 hours with a fractured pelvis, 100 metres from the Wynyard Ambulance Station, in pain, waiting for an ambulance to arrive to take her to hospital. And that's simply not good enough. And each and every day I'm hearing stories from people within my electorate with similar experiences. We've had the delay of the Spirits. This will cost jobs and investment right across the state. There's been a feasibility study done of the Western Explorer and the sealing of that piece of road infrastructure, and an analysis of the economic benefit that might bring to the West Coast and Circular Head communities, and we're still waiting for that study to be released. And I know that the Circular Head Council and Waratah West Coast Council are very keen to understand what that feasibility study shows and to work constructively with the government around that project. The Cooey Crawl and the highway to Marrawar, little progress to date has been seen on these important infrastructure projects. The Burnie Court redevelopment, there's still no master plan and no information for the community about what this project will look like. And of course, then there's changes to Northwest Bus Services Network, which each and every day I'm hearing from people across the community about their concerns with changes and what it's meant to their life and to their livelihood in many instances. And I want to read a letter from a constituent which I received recently, and I know that many of my colleagues in Braddon have received this letter as well, and also the Minister for Infrastructure. And it says, "Hello everyone, I'm resending this email to State Growth and CCing everyone into the same email to alert you all to my concerns regarding the new metro timetable during the school holidays. Since these changes were implemented in January 2021, this has had a huge impact on my son, Leon, not having a morning connecting bus to his work at Vincent Industries Wynyard. Leon lives in Wivenhoe, has a disability and has been travelling to work in Wynyard for 3.5 years without missing a day. He loves his work, and as we are getting older, we are encouraging Leon to be more independent. Every couple of months, however, Leon's routine will be turned upside down because the metro bus timetable changed during school holidays, which has no regard for people who require this service to get to work. During the school holidays, I'm required to find Leon alternative transport arrangements. Not only does Leon find these changes stressful, but the cost of the alternative transport, for example community transport, is significantly more than Leon earns. I would appreciate your consideration of these issues raised and look forward to hearing from you soon." And I recently met with Leon's mum and representatives from Speak Out Advocacy Group and also representatives from Vincent Industries, and they're quite concerned about the changes and the impact that this will have on their employees. And I will indeed be writing to the Minister about this issue, calling on him to review this, because this just doesn't make sense. Why would you provide a service and then not provide it during the school holidays when it's actually used by people to get to employment as well? It would appear that the consultation's been poor. I know that Vincent Industries report that there have been a number of changes which have impacted on their workforce and their ability to catch the bus to work, and I would like to see the government and the Department of State Growth work constructively with this family, but also the team at Vincent Industries to work out some solutions and to enable these North West Tasmanians to be able to get to work and not be obstructed by nonsense changes to the bus scheduling on the North West Coast. That also brings me, Deputy Speaker, to the transit centre and red line bus services, and the fact that we don't have a transit centre in Devonport anymore, and the fact that people have been waiting on the street for an hour for the adjoining buses with little to no shelter. And it just doesn't make sense that you would close the transit centre, but then through the changes that you have implemented in the scheduling of the bus service, make it that people have to wait for an hour longer for the connecting service. So we've asked for this to be reviewed, and I hope that the government take that on board and review it, because it's simply unacceptable and it's caused enormous stress, disruption to bus services, and it really has literally left members of the North West community standing out in the cold, and it's not good enough, and I want to see this reviewed. I also want to talk about school buses, because I've had lots of parents contact me too about changes to school bus services, where it means that their children are now walking 1.6 kilometres to their home from where the bus drops them off, when previously, year upon year, it's dropped them off outside their house. These are primary school kids. They're also being dropped off in the morning on a very busy arterial road, and with no one accompanying them to walk up to the school, young children, and they're concerned about that as well. And they're also very short time frames for the children to make it to the bus stop to get the connecting service to home. And when they are on the connecting service, it's at times overcrowded, and they're concerned. These parents are very concerned about that as well. So I've written to the Minister about this one as well, and I'm asking for this to be reviewed by the Department of State Growth and Metro. I want to reflect now, Madam Deputy Speaker, on a public meeting I attended at Leith on Sunday, a meeting attended by distressed locals concerned about the secrecy of this government, the government's disregard for these residents, and their opposition to the proposed overpass, which incidentally has never been presented or explained to the community as the final solution or explanation provided by this government as to why their much-loved family homes will be bulldozed and why this is the only option to improve safety on this segment of road. There has been no further consultation or discussion on the government's consultation session at the Fourth Hall in 2018, where several options for improved road safety were presented, and where the residents' preferred solution overwhelmingly was to reduce speed limits and create a roundabout. Why has the government ignored this consultation, and why has the government ignored these residents? I'm calling today on Premier Peter Gutwein and Minister Michael Ferguson to hit pause on this project and sit down with these residents, be upfront with them and listen to their concerns, and importantly provide further information to them and release the final report on all options for the residents to see. Listen to their pleas to save their loved homes and the character of their village, and find an alternative. To receive a phone call advising you your home will be compulsory required for a project you have no knowledge of, and the experience of Tanya Wallace, who was notified by her neighbour that her home was going to be compulsorily required. To be frank, a term used a lot by the Premier is completely unacceptable. In fact, I find it disgraceful. They have a number of issues that they have also raised to me and asked for me to raise on their behalf in this place, and that is that they feel that they have been treated at times rudely and unprofessional by the consultants who have been conducting this work on behalf of the government. And largely that is what they wanted to raise, and other than the fact that they just feel that the process is very rushed and very flawed, and the consultation has been very, very poor with those residents, without any regard for what it means to their life going forward. This is just another example, Madam Deputy Speaker, of this government running roughshod over communities. Example after example I have illustrated today, and communities are fed up with it. We are often asked in this place about alternatives. Well, I'm proud to say Labor has a suite of positive policies, fully costed policies in our jobs plan that will make a difference to the lives of Tasmanians. We have held jobs and skills forums around the state recently, inviting the community to come along and learn about our free TAFE policy and plans for job growth across Tasmania. Our jobs plan is extensive. And today in my contribution I want to focus on the following aspects. Labor's Second Chance program. Last week I had the great pleasure of meeting Emma. Emma has wanted to be a mechanic all her life, but life hasn't always meant that she's been able to fulfil that dream. And she really, really wants to get a mechanical apprenticeship and has applied for many. She's undergone further training, but to date it's been unsuccessful. And she wrote to us about this, and it was really Emma's experience which influenced the development of our Second Chance career program, where Labor will provide a $30,000 apprenticeship guarantee for older workers seeking a fresh career start as an apprentice, removing the financial disincentive for employers to take on a mature aged apprentice. The $15 million program will provide 500 apprenticeship guarantees for workers aged over 35, and Emma's actually 36 and lives in Devonport. And it was my great pleasure to meet her and hear of her experience, and I would like to wish her every success as she looks for an adult apprenticeship to be a mechanic, because I think it's only fair and reasonable that she gets to achieve her dream. The second aspect of our jobs plan that I want to mention is our Tasmanian Jobs and Innovation Fund. And this is about partnering with business to stimulate in private investment. And in the past, there are many Tasmanian businesses that have benefited from this type of policy that's been initiated with Labor by the federal and state level. And we would like to see funding that will be allocated through competitive grant rounds and priority be given to investments that will result in business growth and job creation. And this policy, Madam Deputy Speaker, is expected to stimulate at least $220 million of business of investment and create 1,600 jobs. And I think that provides tremendous opportunity for business and industry, particularly across regional Tasmania. And the last part of our jobs plan that I wanted to make reference to is Labor's Sea Highway plan. And Madam Deputy Speaker, as an island state, Tasmania's Sea Highway is the most important highway that we have. And a Labor government will invest $80 million to upgrade the Burnie port to accommodate larger vessels, improve bulk storage capacity and further improve ship loading efficiency. This investment will also reduce conflict between users of the port, and the increased capacity will also trigger growth and jobs in the forestry, mining and agriculture sectors. And when it comes to the Devonport port, Labor will invest $60 million to enhance the Port of Devonport. This will include enhanced facilities to accommodate the new Spirit of Tasmania vessels and the 160,000 additional passengers they will bring to the state each year, whenever they arrive, Madam Deputy Speaker. As well, berthing facilities for transport and logistics providers will be expanded. The port's commercial fishing facilities will be enhanced, and the opportunity will be created for development of a marina and facilities for public events. Madam Speaker, Labor has a plan with ambition for Tasmania's economic growth and local job creation, and we have compassion for all Tasmanians, no matter where they live or their disadvantage. Communities are tired of this government ignoring their concerns and forging on with their own agenda, with little regard to the impact this will have on Tasmanians' lives. Our commitment to Tasmanians is genuine, and we think that Tasmanians deserve better than the mediocrity of this government. And we have a plan to create a better and fairer Tasmania. We believe Tasmanians deserve better, and we believe Tasmanians will do better under a Labor government. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.